Yes. He can write that himself.
Note,
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
Yeah,
He can write it himself. Killer Tech is the name of the book. The author of this book is Mark Stross. Exactly. Mark Stross. Killer Tech and the Drive to Save Humanity. Now, Mark's going to be with us here in just a couple of minutes, but Kim and Phillip know this man very well. Tell us about Mark and tell us about this book.
Oof, it's hard to condense this man into a summary, and I don't think he'll even introduce himself and do himself justice, but this man is one of the leading, if not the leading, technologist in America. So he invented a lot of the technology we see today in the big stadiums and train stations. He invented the technology for the 360-degree seamless video board. I believe it's called a fascia board that you see in the big stadiums. He's done work at Times Squares. I'll let him explain more about what he did at the Oculus, at the World Trade Center, Penn Station, a lot of big productions, NBC Tonight Show. He's a good friend of mine, too. I know him and his wife for years now. We used to work together. His wife is incredible. I love you, Kathleen. She's one of my favorite people. Mark is a wealth of knowledge. I call him the mad scientist because he has so much knowledge. He's a technologist who produces and protects America's technology, and he promotes it. But recently he wrote a book because he has a message for America about what we need to know about safeguarding technology, not only for our own digital experience and safeguarding ourselves as humans, not users, but also how technology can influence and even manipulate our thought, and especially, and as you know, this is something I'm very passionate about, how it can influence children. Not only how predators can access them, but how it can also manipulate the way they think and our overall culture. So I'm excited to have him on this morning. I'm excited to introduce him to y'all.
And a man is standing by, I do believe, in the phone lines, the author of this book, Mark Stross.
Yes.
Yes. You
got it.
Mark, good morning, and how are you?
I am great. Good morning, everyone. I believe I'm speaking to Dan this morning, and good morning, Dan.
Mark, good morning to you, sir. It's and Kim Kelley's here, and Phillip Drake also here in the studio. Mark, and Killer Tech is the name of the book, and the Drive to Save Humanity. I tell you, Mark, but looking at the way things are going these days, it's like somebody watched or read the book, 1984, took it to the lab and said, hey, guy, do you think we can make this thing fly? You know?
Oh, my gosh. I mean, yes, absolutely. I don't know if you're familiar with the RAND Corporation, but they did a study in the 80s that talked about truth decay. And we are going through a period of extreme truth decay. It's actually worse than during the Jimmy Carter era and during the Reagan era. As in the Reagan era, Reagan purged the truth decay, and we went from a very bad era into a much better era. And right now we've gone back into a very bad time when both parties, the Democrats and the Republicans, don't trust each other. And you can see that in the polls when you go all the way to the Congress and the Senate, and you can see the division between the people's views and the political views. They are very different. So, yes, truth decay is real.
Let me ask you, Mark, do you have us on speaker? If you do, could you take us off speaker? I'm having a little bit of trouble understanding you.
Oh, that is strange. I am talking to you on AirPods, and usually you're very clean. I don't know if we have a bad line.
Maybe it's me.
I think it's just you, Dan, because I can hear him fine.
Okay, all right. And Mark, it's me. Never mind.
Listen. He's speaking such truth. It's hard to understand. That's what it is.
Yeah, you got to feed it to us in small bites, Mark. It's. I tell you, I wondered how you feel about this. We had what was called the Fairness Doctrine in place to prevent propaganda from lifting off to the Reagan administration, take it out back and put a bullet in it. And that's led us to where we are today. That allowed corporations to buy up, hundreds and hundreds or thousands of radio stations. It essentially allowed the news to be condensed down to where you're getting it only from just a handful of sources known as corporations. And there was no other possible outcome other than where we are today. So they can say, well, we just didn't see this coming. They saw it coming, didn't they, Mark?
Well, yes, absolutely. I mean, the whole reason why we've had internet laws going through the federal government, and there's been so much contesting of the laws, was really to guarantee who gets access to the highways being the data, and how do we push the data to the home, and who's going to push that data to the home. And honestly, what we're in right now is we're in a situation where only the most powerful corporations get right to the lanes because they're the only ones that can buy the lanes from the government. And I'm trying to keep this very simple. So ultimately, if you only have the very powerful that are able to access the lanes, then you also set up a situation where information will also be, it will be, and this is very interesting, it's not censored, it's just kept from the highways. So that's not even censorship if you don't even allow it on the highways in the first place. So if you don't like someone's view, you just don't allow them on the highway at all. Now, censorship, I would argue, is when someone's trying to explain something that's controversial, you don't like it, and you take it off. But when you annihilate the lane completely, you cancel the lane. And that's where we are today. And I would prefer to use the terminology, we're just canceling Thor. Back to George Orwell.
Yep, and the name of the book is called Killer Attack and the Drive to Save Humanity. The author is Mark Stross. He's on the line with us.
The book is coming out early next year, so I'm excited for it. I got a special advanced copy. Nope, it's not out yet. So this is the teaser. I shared the book with Phillip. I think his family read it. Happy to share the book with you. It's a really good piece, and it really does simplify a lot of complicated information that Mark has in his head, but it's in an organized fashion that people can understand and relate to. And Mark, I think one of the most important aspects of your message is the influence of technology, not only on our culture, but on our minds. I know that's a big topic to simplify, but can you tell the people your views on that?
Yes, certainly. Maybe to make it interesting, Dan, if you don't mind, and may I pick on you just a little bit to make my point. So this morning, as I'm speaking to you, how do you feel, Dan, that you have signed user agreements across the board for any of your usage of technology? So you're a user. Dan, would you prefer to be called a human when you're signing those agreements and you make those agreements human agreements? My point being is if we're already considered a user, and if these corporations that are giving you a free product considers you the product, then aren't you giving away all your rights? And you're actually calling yourself a user, so you're calling yourself an addict.
I tell you, I think it's just brilliant what they've done. I mean, in a very evil way, is the supreme morons, the Supreme Court that's been bought and paid for by these same people, have written into law that corporations are people too, and at the same time, Mark, you're right on the money. They are dehumanizing humans. They own us, and they're just, and I think they're taking the final step, Mark.
They are, but I have good news. What we've noticed, just take a look at what Trump is doing by running, even when he's under attack. When you look at all of the political systems in general, you're seeing America is going through a transition. Just like we went from the Carter era into the Reagan era, we're going through that tremendous rethink moment. This is when mainstream or the silent majority wakes up and says, what the heck's happened? I think with interest rates having risen so far, I think the average family really is being hit with inflation at such a high rate. I think ultimately, with truth decay, with everything else occurring, we are really in for an amazing 24. I suggest that next year is just going to be an amazing year to live through, because we're going to see this country truly devolve into two camps. Plus, you're going to see the reality of what the silent majority really believes, and I think that's going to be the center movement, which I know Phillip's very much a part of, and I think most of you guys are, which is the real majority of America is going to start to rise. I actually do see a very big political shift, a pendulum shift from progressive views to more traditional views, because ultimately the country needs to resettle. Like a pendulum has to settle from swaying too far left and right. It has to go back to the middle.
Yeah, and that's the danger in it, Mark. When that pendulum swings, sometimes it goes at just an extreme swing, and we don't need that. We need that pendulum to stop right in the middle. And Phillip Drake is running for president of the United States. And Phillip, go for Mark.
Yeah, he's exactly right. You know, all of our solutions right now fall somewhere in the middle. They're all the problems are either to the far right or to the far left. And if we keep leaning too far one way or the other, we're going to destroy this country.
We're going to fall over.
Yeah, we're just going to fall over.
Yeah.
That's it. And it doesn't matter if it's too far to the left or too far to the right. You know, I say all the time, the far left and the far right is exactly the same whenever it comes to the mentality. It's a destructive mentality. And the remainder of us, the masses of the people in the United States, fall somewhere in the middle. And we're just tired of it. We're tired of the Republicans. We're tired of the Democrats. We're tired of all the nonsense. We're tired of all the propaganda. We're tired of it. And we are so large in numbers that, to be honest with you, us independents, everyone in the middle, we are the only hope that this country has to continue. We're the only ones.
Yeah, but the thing is, and Mark, that we've got to solve this riddle is, how do we reach the Americans that have been victimized by this propaganda? I call it, if they're, to me, they're in a trauma bond right now, and there's no easy way out. There's no switch to flip. It takes a lot of work to get out of that. And by the way, I got to say this before, we got to get a time out here. When Kim Kelley handed me this book, I was like, why is she giving me a book by Rick Springfield? Does he not look like Rick Springfield to you?
A little bit.
I guess that's a compliment, Mark.
Have you ever been told that, Mark?
That is. You know, I'll tell you something. I never thought I'd have my face on the cover of the book. That came about when we were trying to decide how to actually depict humanity. And it was really weird to be looking at my image on the book, with the split image. So we have one side of it that looks digital and the other side that looks like a normal image. Very cool cover. I just never expected it was going to be me doing it.
Well, you look fantastic. And Rick Springfield did have a song entitled Human Touch. So I'm putting this all together now. This Rick Springfield and JFK Jr.
I'm honored. You putting Rick Springfield with me? All right. It's good.
Rick Springfield.
That's a good morning.
Yeah, Rick Springfield and JFK Jr. are going to be the ticket. I guarantee you. Ask QAnon. Does QAnon know that?
QAnon doesn't know anything.
Rick Springfield and JFK Jr. We'll be right back here, folks. And Mark, can you hold on just a minute? We've got a hard break, and it's great to have Mark here. Mark Stross, and the book will come out next year.
Yep, early next year. We're excited.
It's called Killer Tech and the Drive to Save Humanity, and I've been looking forward to this all morning long, talking with Mark Stross. He's the Chief Technology Officer for ANC and was recently named by Inc. magazine as one of the top 10 CTOs to talk to in America over a 25-year career with ANC. We'll be right back.